Welcome! Today, we're opening up a concept called the Scout Mindset. And honestly, the Scout Mindset is one of those deeply challenging frameworks that just kind of flips everything you know. In this explainer, we're diving into the brilliant work of Julia Galef, mapping out why we relentlessly defend things that might not even be true. You see, Julia Galef doesn't just want us to be smarter. She wants to show us exactly where our logic actually turns into armor. So let's step into the Scout Mindset together, because understanding the Scout Mindset changes absolutely everything. You are not weighing the choice. You are protecting it. Just take a breath and let that settle for a second. You might call it logic because logic sounds clean, right? But your body knows the real deal. You might be harboring this hidden fear right now, that your incredible intelligence is literally just acting as a hired guard for a sunk cost decision you've already made. Which brings us to the core question of our private audit today. What if your best argument is just fear in a suit? Now, I want you to know it is completely okay to feel this way, because a wrong choice, it rarely feels wrong at first. Actually, it feels loyal. You don't feel trapped by the choice, you just feel threatened by the loss of being right. We tend to hold on to this false belief that having a good, solid argument automatically means we have the truth. I wish this weren't true, but look at where it leads. It leads right to the identity filter. This is basically a self-image gate that decides which facts feel safe enough to acknowledge. When we defend a conclusion, our identity literally becomes an evidence filter. A bright mind doesn't automatically seek the truth. Sometimes it just uses all that incredible processing power to build a cleaner, nicer prison so we can avoid grief. Gilliff outlines this core binary, and both sides carry absolute equal gravity. The soldier mindset versus the scout mindset. The soldier defends the tribe. They desperately need victory. The scout, on the other hand, maps reality. They desperately need the terrain. Now, neither the soldier nor the scout is stupid. They're simply serving entirely different motives. The soldier's job is to protect coherence, but the scout's job is to actually see the landscape. Let's look at how this builds in our everyday lives. Think of it as evidence as ammunition versus evidence as weather. The soldier uses logic as a blade to cut away threats, right? They need ammunition to survive the debate. But the scout? The scout views opposing evidence like rain. It's just weather. It is simply a condition of the terrain. It's not a personal insult to their identity. And this brings us to a phenomenon you might know incredibly intimately, the sunk cost pulse. If you are ever paralyzed by the fear of missing out or the fear of a wasted investment, just look at the tolls. You pay in your time and your attention. You pay in that little lie you tell yourself at breakfast and in that tense, quiet pause right before you fall asleep. You even feel this tribal thrill when the other side misses. Defending a bad choice takes an exhausting bodily toll. That jaw-locking flinch you feel when you're challenged, listen, that is data. It is not guilt. Can I believe this versus must I believe this? I'm not sure where this leaves us. Let's sit with it. When we desperately want something to be true, we ask, can I believe this? We're basically searching for the slightest permission. But when we really don't want it to be true, we ask, must I believe this? Demanding an impossible, absolute burden of proof. So, how in the world do we escape this cycle? Well, we use a trapdoor question. What would I expect to see if I were wrong? The wild thing is, most people leave this answer completely blank. And they leave it blank not because the opposing evidence doesn't exist out there in the real world, but because a blank page protects their pride. And that leads us to this beautiful, absolutely vital realization. The needle points away from the trophy. Imagine a compass resting on a sealed map. The prize is not where pride dictates. The way forward is exactly where that needle pulls, even if it points directly, completely away from the trophy you've been fighting so incredibly hard to win. To make this incredibly concrete, think about it like this. Defend the recipe versus taste the soup. You can cite the famous chef, you can praise the ridiculously expensive pot, you can passionately defend the recipe all day long. But your mouth does not respect your theory if the soup is bitter. When the soup is bitter, a scout actually thanks the bitterness, because the bitterness tells the truth way before pride does. Certainty can stand still. Accuracy has to walk. This brings us to the concept of recoverable aim. A scout holds a view firmly, kind of like a tool. You grip it tightly when it's working for you, but you have the emotional security to set it down the very moment it starts lying to you. It's about moving forward, not standing frozen in place. They're both symptoms of the same misunderstanding. But the calculation of cost between the two is just stark. The soldier pays later, but the scout pays now. Delaying reality comes with these compounding, courtroom-like costs. You are constantly on trial, exhausting yourself defending your stance. But taking a small wound from the truth early on, that has clarifying, workshop-like costs. The Scout pays the small price of truth up front to avoid total ruin later. So let's step into the actionable part, the update ritual. Step 1, name the choice you keep defending. Step 2, map the fear beneath it. And step 3, run a test that can fail. You have to run a physical, real-world test. Open the bill you've been avoiding. Read the opposing case. Ask the person directly. A real test absolutely must have the capacity to surprise you and fundamentally change your very next step. Ask yourself, where did I stop looking? Let's resolve what we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer. You didn't make wrong choices because you lacked intelligence. You made them because your intelligence had the wrong job. It was busy guarding your identity instead of mapping your reality. It's time for the discipline of release. Release the need to sound certain. Release that sacred sunk cost. Let the hand open, just one finger at a time, and receive one clean piece of bad news. Truth does not humiliate you, I promise. It only removes the heavy costume of self-defense. What hurts is the hand gripping the costume. Let it go.
You do not need a flawless mind. You need a mind that reports. Cleverness is what keeps the self intact and defends the ego. But courage is what allows the self to update and return to reality.
Truth starts after self-defense. Before anything else tomorrow, you will bring one defended choice and apply this lens. If you don't, you've chosen to stay exactly where you are. Continue the internal transformation at upgowise.com.